Hello and welcome to Bags of Action. My name's Steve and this is a 5-minute review of Code 8 from 2019. This was originally done as a short film in 2016. The film is directed and co-written by Jeff Chan and Chris Paré. It stars Robbie Amell and his cousin Stephen Amell and Sung Kang. Stephen Amell is most well known for being the lead on the Arrow TV series from the CW, and his cousin Robbie Amell has appeared on that show, The Flash, and also Legends of Tomorrow. He's also the lead in the Upload TV series over on Amazon Prime. Now, originally they released the short film themselves and then went through the crowdfunding route to fund the feature-length film, and because of their support from fans, they achieved that goal quite comfortably. It allowed them to retain creative control of the film, which is something they were aiming for. So this is quite an interesting film in that it's a take on superheroes, or at least people with powers, but not what you would expect. There's no latex, there's no people with code names. What happened was, in the history of this world, which is introduced very quickly in the credits, is during the 20th century, people with powers started to develop, and they were then put to work building America. So rather than using them for fighting crime and so on, because of their special abilities to lift great weights or conduct electricity, or whatever it might be, they were there building the buildings that became part of America's national landscape. However, with the rise of mechanization and automation for manufacturing and so on, their powers became less reliable, or at least not nearly as quick or as productive as they could be. And so they fell out of favour and have become second-class citizens. The story then picks up back in the present, where Robbie Amell is a guy who's down on his luck. He's taking cash in hand, and he has powers where he can conduct electricity. So him and a number of other guys every morning are picked up by a bloke in a truck, taken to a construction site, and they get to do work sort of off the books, cash in hand, no questions asked, that sort of thing. At the same time, there's a crackdown on police who are trying to get them to stop using their powers, or they have to have a license. And this is where Robbie Amell gets into trouble, because his mother is suffering. She has a brain tumour and he needs to get money to help her. He meets this character called Garrett, played by his cousin, Stephen Amell, who's a criminal working for a mid-level guy within an organisation. He needs the money, he's desperate, and so he agrees to do a job. What follows is him sliding further and further into the criminal world as his personal situation becomes worse. However, there is serious cost, and the film then builds to quite an exciting crescendo where they're going for a much bigger job and something goes wrong, as you would expect with this kind of a film and scenario. So it has elements of something like Baby Driver, it has elements of crime films more than superhero films really, and because it's done on quite a low budget and it's set within one city, the sets are quite seedy and interesting, sort of bars and clubs and garages. The cast are not people you particularly recognise, apart from the two named guys I've mentioned so far. So it doesn't really distract you from anything. The script is actually really good. There's none of it that's over-laboured. Some of the characters are introduced very quickly and carefully. They don't stretch out points. They touch on little things and move on, leaving the audience to catch up, so you're not having to sit through pages and pages of exposition. So I really appreciated that. The special effects were good when people are using their different powers, whether it's strength or electricity or healing or someone being particularly bulletproof. It's really good. It's low-key and low-tech kind of stuff. The other element I forgot to mention is the police obviously have their own technology to combat those with powers, and part of this is there are huge drones constantly roving the city. And if there's any sort of alert to do with the powers, they drop these two armed robots, essentially, that are autonomous and can take out people with powers with lethal force. So doing any crime in a city anywhere with powers is really difficult when they can essentially drop armed police officers from the sky at any moment. At this point, finding something different and interesting to do with superpowers is kind of hard. We've had these sort of films now for over 20 years. You've had 10 years of Marvel, you've had other people coming in around the edges doing bits and pieces. You've had the odd film that have tried to do something interesting like Project Power and never quite pulled it off. But I feel that this succeeded where Project Power failed. That was all about introducing a drug that gave people powers. This is, you have to live with it full time. How does society adapt? How does it evolve? And it wasn't something that's come along in the last few years. So most people are trying to get on with their lives, and those with powers are, but unfortunately they're finding themselves as second-class citizens and constantly on the out. So they have to adapt, and some of them in turn to crime. There are no real heroes in this film as such. All of the characters are grey, all of them are trying to do their best, and Robbie Amell's character starts off as quite a naive guy, but as he's exposed more to the world of powers and other people with it, and also the criminal underworld, he realises that he's never going to get ahead unless he tries to take something from others. At least that is what he believes. And so the film explores his spiral into the criminal underworld, but also the darker side of his personality. So it was a different spin that was interesting and definitely worth seeing. My only complaint with this film is that the trajectory of the overall film is probably a little bit predictable. There were some bits in there that I really liked that I almost wish they'd expanded on, but probably for budget and time they couldn't. And also to keep the pace quite fast, they didn't linger on those other elements. I think there's definitely room to explore this world and do other stories within it. Whether or not they'll ever come back to it, I don't know, because they're busy with other projects. And this was, of course, a fan-funded film. But it is worth your time, so I would recommend it. It's currently on Netflix. And for all of those reasons, I'm going to give Code 8 4 bags out of 5 and say, take a look and see what you think. It's a new and different twist. So if you want to get in touch with us, you can do it in all of the usual ways. We're on email, we're on Facebook, we're on Twitter. Don't forget to like and subscribe to this channel and share it, any of the videos as well. We're on Ko-fi. If you'd like to support us there, that would be really appreciated. We have new episodes coming out every week, and that's it for now. Thanks for listening.